welcome back to our show. Hey, Dennis. There you are.
Oh, hey.
He's finally here. We've had a bit of a break, and we had some time off, and we're back. I'm glad to see you. I wanted to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
How's
I
your
might
knee?
answer. Huh?
How's your knee?
Which one?
Either one.
I
Are
got
they
two of
fine?
them.
They don't hurt?
No.
Okay,
Why would I hurt?
so we have we have a young fighter, one of our young students, who's just hobbling all over the place. Can't come to class. What happened? Oh, I kicked Sifu Dennis in the knee, and I said, "Okay, Dennis is older than me, and I said, "You kicked him in the knee. What happened?" So I guess Dennis must be hurting, right? It seems like you're indestructible, and the guy that's 21 is falling to pieces here, or is it your famous Thai boxing shins?
Uh, well, one thing I've noticed as of late, especially working on the bodies of younger athletes, athletes of this day, one thing that I have noticed is, how do I say it nicely? They're not as rugged as like when I was younger. You kind of understood when you got into a sport. Like I won't say page. I have this one person that came in that I was talking to, and he was always coming in and complaining about muscle pain. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm bodybuilding. Like, okay, so you know what happens when you lift weights? Well, I'm supposed to get stronger, right? I go, yes, you do, but the process is your muscles tear, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, but it hurts. And then I had another kid come in and he was complaining about hurting all the time. I'm like, so what sport are you doing? I'm boxing. You're boxing. And you're complaining about getting hurt
And you're hurt.
because what's going on? He goes, well, the workouts and I get hit and it hurts. Like, okay. So I don't personally, I don't understand. Like you said, I'm not that young anymore, but
Hmm.
I
You
don't
mean
know.
you mean someone striking you causes pain? I
Oh,
mean,
weird.
in general, yeah. I
I've
mean,
never heard of that. Because in the movies, they can just go on forever and ever and ever and ever, and I don't get it.
yeah. I don't know if society has changed or if it's just the younger generation, but I have some lovely students. But some of the stories I hear when people can't come to class, I don't just hear, "Hey, man, I'm too busy. I can't come to class."
Mm.
It'll be like, "I'll see you tomorrow," and then the next day it's like, "I gotta take my mom to the airport." And then I've heard this story about 3 times. I'm like, "Your mom doesn't tell you like in advance that you have to take her to the airport?" It's like, no, she likes to tell me 5 minutes before we have to leave. I guess
Wow.
it's just the weird ways of getting out of training and
Yep,
stuff like
yep,
that.
yep.
It's fun
I-
stuff, fun and games. Well, we have a wonderful guest, Dennis. Uh, would you like to introduce him? Would you like to tell your history, or should we just bring him on? What do you want to
Oh, wait.
do?
Well, let me start with this. Um, I'm trying to figure out a way to say this without offending people, but you know what? I'm not the kind of person that really cares. Um, but Bert Poe would always introduce my dear friend and my brother here. We call him Vito, and for clear reasons. He's
Oh,
Italian, all right. So, for example, at his wedding, his godfather came, right? And I'm thinking, okay, godfather. But anyway, yeah, it was worked for a construction company, that kind of thing. But
yeah, yeah.
anyway, um, but I've known Vic for a really long time. He'll tell this story, but like I said, Bert Poe would call him simply the Wop. So, without further introduction, Vito Dicosola, otherwise known as Vic, you're on.
Hey man.
Hey, Vic. That's a great
Oh man,
introduction.
we're showing some age here. God, I miss the crew. I mean, way back when Bert, Sonny, and then Bob Bremer. We'll talk, but I'm glad to be here. A lot of history. I'm so happy you guys invited me here. As Dennis mentioned, we go back a long, long way. Um,
Yeah.
I could just start where, I've been in martial arts when I got started as a teenager. I was 14 or 15 years old, growing up in Chicago. The Watt family, right? The big Italian family with the Godfather and everything. Um, I was absorbing everything Bruce wrote. The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, Danny's book, The Art and Fighting Style, Bruce Lee. Early on, Larry Hartzel's book. I just absorbed myself and knew that way back when I was, I don't know, 15, 16, when I started to know better and reading all the texts from Bruce, just everything I could, because it was the philosophy that intrigued me about his view of life, and know that I didn't want to be in a dojo.
Mm.
I didn't want to wear a gi. I didn't want to do all that stuff. I knew from an early age that it really wasn't for me. So I worked out on my own for a long time. And then I guess the day came where I decided I was going to go in the military. And of course, we had choices where we wanted to go on your dream sheet, they called it. And I was in the Air Force for the 5 years where I met Dennis. But the reason I came to California, the only reason I came to California in the military and put in my dream sheet, was because JKD, Tim Tackett, uh, and the whole JKD martial art thing. That was the only reason. The
Yeah,
only
but
reason I came to California. I joined the military. I knew it was the best way to get me to California. And in the back of the book of Danny's book of the Bruce Lee's fighting style, um, one of his books he wrote, Jeet Kune Do, Danny's book. All the senior members of JKD were in the back of the book,
oh really?
including
Hmm.
Tim Tackett.
That's
So
right.
obviously there was no cell phones back then, but 411 worked good, and we had telephone books. And I remember calling Mr. Tackett, um, just a young guy. I was 19 at the time,
There it is.
and I put my dream sheet in that I wanted to go to California, and I got it. And I called Tim up, and I told him basically my background, that I've been wanting to work out my whole life, basically as a teenager, is to come work and do JKD. And obviously, I didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground when it came down to martial arts compared, what I thought I knew. Tim was very graceful at the time. And I
Ah,
remember at that time, he said, well, um, what you probably should do is talk to my son, Tim Jr. Tim Jr., rest in peace. I miss him. I miss him dearly. Uh, and he told me there was a group of guys who worked out that weren't with working at the Wednesday night group. The crew that was there at the time, I was a beginner guy, and it was more the foundation, I found out. So here I am going to the rec center for the first time in the Air Force. I met Dennis, obviously. I met Tim Tackett Jr. And of course, Dennis, remember the flip. Luis, if you're
The
watching
flip.
this, Luis, hey, brother,
Yeah.
our Filipino friend, of course, in combat.
Mm.
And it was history at the beginning. I, I, uh, I remember showing up, and it was everything I thought it would be. We did boxing basics. I started learning Kali for the first time. I read about it and never carried a stick in my hand. We learned that. And there was a special bond. Dennis will attest to this. We became very, very, very close, a very close crew. I mean, we worked out. Dennis will attest to this. We worked out 5 nights a week, Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, something like that. I think Monday through Thursday at the rec center. We worked out a lot, um, and it was awesome. It was like a dream come true, and for me, because I was getting the foundation to get me to Wednesday night group, obviously, because obviously at the beginning stages I wasn't there yet. I didn't have a very good foundation of what the basic foundation skill sets I needed. But I got it done in a hurry. And
mm.
you know working with Dennis, was the premier, and Tim Jr., and was just a premier education that I had, just the beginnings of fighting. I
Mm.
didn't call it martial art back then. We learned how to fight. We did a lot of boxing, and we had a special bond. And Dennis will remember this. Ty Pete finally joined us early on. If people don't know Ty Pete was a Buddhist monk. He was a Thai boxer, but a Buddhist monk. And the funniest stories back then was when we first met Ty Pete. Dennis will attest to this. Ty Pete was, oh, so glad to meet you, Mr. Vito and Dennis. He was a Buddhist monk. But his parents, like Tim Jr., really wanted him to get out and work out and meet other people. And Pete was very, very, very quiet. And Dennis remembered the story. It's absolutely hysterical. So Pete was working out with us and brought in the Thai aspect, the Thai boxing aspect of what we were doing. Very first one. The Wednesday night group wasn't even doing that yet. It was, Thai Pete came on board. We learned how to, throw Thai kicks. We learned a lot of things about how to produce power, that fit right in with throwing our hip with our Thai kicks. And Thai Pete brought that. He brought that knowledge base to us. And it took about 6-7 months, and after that, kind of Pete started opening up a little bit. In fact, I'll flash forward. It got to a point where, Dennis, remember this, his parents were so worried about him being so American and being a fighter with us. I think they sent him back to Thailand to go back
Yes.
to the monk place to get all humble again. Because I remember he disappeared for a long time after we were working out. And he
Getting
came
quite beat
back,
out
I
of him.
guess, to kind of get rehearsed again about how to be a monk. And he came back about 8 months later after a little hiatus. But I think his folks thought he was getting too wild with us at the time.
Yeah,
But
let me just real quick.
go ahead.
You just want to jump in real quick. That one of the things you said back there, just about your training, that's something I really miss, and I'm sure there's places that has it still, but not just camaraderie, but that love for training together, that brotherhood and sisterhood. I know there's sometimes the girls fit into it as well, but there's usually this great brotherhood. And honestly, I'll see some guys that like martial arts, maybe they even love martial arts, but it's like going to the gym. It's like, I got to do this. If I'm going to get better, I'll show up once or twice a week if I have to, and I mean, I remember, you have a very similar story to mine, in that I also moved to California to learn Jeet Kune Do. And it was like, when I found out I could also go train with Dennis at his house, I was like, oh yeah, sign me up, and I don't know if it's because there's just so much out there with the internet and social media and cable, but I'm right there with you when you talk about having those 5 days a week of just putting on gloves on,
Intense.
yeah, and loving it.
Yeah. It was why I came. It was everything I wanted. And obviously, as we started working out, then the 4 or 5 days a week, we got to be very, very close. I remember the highlight was where I was invited, Dennis, I don't know if you remember this, but we all got invited to go to Danny. We went to Danny's studio with Tim Tackett one day. Um,
It's San
so
Inosanto, right?
yeah. So we went to Danny's place, and I met Chris Kent, Larry Hartzell, all the old school guys. And I remember going to Marina Del Rey to a Thai restaurant, right? And here's this Italian guy who doesn't eat much of anything coming into California, right? I really liked the wop slop, and I was a very picky eater. And I remember sitting at this long table, and Dennis was there, I was there, Tim Tackett, Larry Hartzell, Chris Kent was there, Danny, all the guys from his school, and Tim and brought some of his guys. And I remember all the food's getting passed around, and they're all laughing at me. They're like, "Eat it, Wop. You're gonna like it." And all this food's going by me as family style. Like, what the hell is this food going on? So, but it builds camaraderie of I got to meet Danny at the time. I met Chris. I met Larry Hartzell. I remember going to Larry Hartzell's apartment afterwards. Memory serves me correctly, and Dennis was there. Tim Tackett was there, and it was just the bond of me meeting the JKD nucleus at the time. I was in heaven. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are like legends, right? After, Bruce's passing, this is the next generation, right? And I consider myself the young generation, the up and coming under Dennis and obviously Tim Tackett at the time. And life was amazing. Like I said, we had a very, very close crew. I mean, we even worked at a nightclub. We all did. We even got to test our skills. I'll never forget. It was I was doing the DJ work at what was the name of that place? Pancho Villa. on
Yes.
40th Street in San
Onto the
Bernardino.
Cracker Jacks.
Yeah, Cracker Jack. So here we got the whole crew. We got Dennis. I got me doing the DJ work. We got Dennis doing the doorman security. We got Type Pete doing security. We got Tim doing, and we got the Flip Louise also doing the doorman stuff, and I'm doing the DJ work. And I'll never forget the one night, this drunk guy, Pete ends up kicking this guy. Oh, Dennis remembers it. Pete ends up tie kicking this guy, just drunk and belligerent. Pete actually tie kicks this guy, kind of hits him right here low, and the guy goes flying in the bushes like a big full-on tie kick. And I'll never forget, the guy gets back up. I remember Pete looks at Dennis and I says, "I kick him, he get back up. What do I do?" Dennis says, "Kick him again." So Ty gets back up. Just Pete unleashes another tie kick, kicks this guy, and this time the dude is not coming up. He is not coming up. All right, you saw he was just a drunk guy causing a major headache. And it was just, here we are at a nightclub, not looking for trouble, but when you work at a nightclub and you're working as a doorman and security, stuff's going to happen. So lucky for us, we could all handle ourselves. It was an amazing time for all of us. And it was just a close-knit group of guys. As you mentioned, Jeremy, we love to work out together. I mean, it was not only a workout session for us, but it was just fighting. It was just fighting and just working out. No bullshit. All hands on. I mean, I remember getting the hockey stuff out and doing the collie stuff, and with the stick fighting and the mask, and I've never had the fighting at that time that was full out. That was full out. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing what we did back there and what we learned from all of us. And one of the other funny stories I remember, and Tim Jr.'s sister used to run an dance aerobics class. So here's these JKD guys, here's our martial art guys, and we're all like thinking we're like in the best shape of their lives, which we were. I mean, we were in incredible shape back then, each and every one of us. We were in fighting shape. I remember getting invited. Dennis remembers this. We got invited, or Tim's sister invited us to come to a dance aerobic or whatever they're doing. They jump up on the blocks and they do this dance aerobic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the step stuff. Yeah. So we go rolling in there as Supermen, right? And I remember going in there, and the music starts, and we're all in there. I think it's the Flip and Dennis, myself, and Tim Jr. And we're all in there doing our thing at the very beginning. And it's like 10, 15 minutes into this step stuff and all the other stuff that they do, and I'm getting tired. I mean, I'm really getting tired. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, this is 15 minutes. Is there a bell here? Ding, ding, ding for a 1 minute rest? And I remember getting my ass kicked, just getting my ass kicked, literally at this dance aerobic place. Here's these macho guys going into this place, thinking we're in the shape of our life, and I'm getting my ass kicked after about 15 minutes, and these girls are just running circles around me, right? And I think I'm in great shape, but nothing prepared me for that level of cardio that I'm not used to, of just going and going without a little break, switching it on, switching it off. There was no switching it off. It was just all on and no stop.
Yeah, different kind of shape, man. That my wife and I will actually swap out exercises. She'll take some of our martial arts drills and put it into her ballet class. And I mean, I've had some of the guys in Europe, and here I'll have, if she travels with me, I'll have her do just like a little muscle placement classes, and people are crying. But yeah, it's good to it's the story of cross training, right? This is where people started to realize just doing the same thing all the time isn't always enough.
No, and you go in there and thinking you're in the shape of your life, and you're a young guy. We're all macho guys. Like, shit, we're not going to get tired doing this candy ass stuff. Next thing I know, I'm sucking wind, and like, I got to stop. It was, I don't know, we went on for like 20 minutes, and they just kept going. It's like, I can't do this anymore. It was just tough. So it was just the fun stuff that we did, and learning different things, as you said, Jeremy, of learning that cross training stuff. And it's always a learning process. That's one thing. I think JKD in general, the highlight, I guess, of my whole life, what's followed me is the education, is the people that been involved, that I've surrounded myself with, that have been brilliant. The people like Dennis and he mentioned Bert Poe and a dear friend of mine, Sonny. These were two individuals that I think probably shaped my young adulthood. Um, Dennis remembers many of home meetings and just home visits we had with Sonny, going over to his home, and one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my whole life. I don't think the man finished high school, but he had a brain of a PhD in many, many, many fields, and Dennis will attest to this. I remember Sonny at my wedding. We talked about you talked about my wedding a bit. Bert was there. Obviously, Sonny was there. And if I back up a little bit, I met them. Obviously, yeah, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But what happened was, after about a year, um, it was almost like you got read in, and Tim Sr. got to know you a little bit, and I'm sure Tim Jr. and him talked about it. And Dennis was already going to the Wednesday night group. I wasn't there yet, and it was almost like It was almost like graduation. It was almost like, wow, I got invited to go. Once you stop in on a Wednesday night group, that's when I met Bert, and I met Sonny, and I remember my first Wednesday night group, that I met some of the older JKD guys that were there already, and obviously Bert and Sonny, a little bit before Bob Bremer started showing up,
Yep.
but Bert, Sonny, Dennis, myself, and some of the other senior JKD guys were there on that first Wednesday night, and obviously Bert right away as you're a wop. um,
He figured that out.
yeah, he was he was a tough was he Cherokee Indian? Dennis, was it Cherokee?
Comanche, right, Dennis?
Comanche,
Yeah.
yeah, but one of the toughest next to Bob Bremer, son of a bitches I've ever met, and Sonny. Those guys were off the chart. I remember the story, Bob Bremer carrying dollar bills in the subway. He used to tell us out of his pocket, back in the day where, Bruce told him he was the toughest son of a bitch in Chinatown he's ever met. And Bert was the same way. The horrendous conflicts and confrontations Bert got in as a police officer. Some of the stories were unbelievable, unbelievable life and death scenarios for Bert. And
Vic, wait, when you met them, were you already in the military when you met
yeah,
Sonny?
when I met Dennis, everybody, I was still in the Air Force. Yep, yep. I was probably, 84, somewhere in there, 85, 1985. I guess I should have did some dates. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So I went in the Air Force in May of 1981. That I met Dennis, and I called Tim basically when I got to California right away, and somewhere in the latter part of 1981. And then I met Bert probably, and Sonny and those guys, probably 83, 84, somewhere in there, I think, or a little bit later. But it is when I first started going to the Wednesday night group. And getting back to Sonny once again, the education between Bert and Sonny and Dennis and Tim,
Mhm.
really set my path for the rest of my life, about my outlook about life, and about what I learned and the philosophy from these guys. They were well ahead of the curve in many areas, and Sonny knew. I mean, it's a great story about Sonny. Two examples: the intelligence between Bert and Sonny, and Sonny was amazing, and Dennis will attest to this as well. We're uh, we're at his house, and this is 1987. I know it real well, the date for sure. It was 1987. I had just started working at Northrop at that time, out in Pico Rivera, California, kind of in the aerospace engineering thing. So when I got out of the Air Force in 86, I started working for Northrop in 87. I already knew Sonny, knew Bert, and we're over at Sonny's house, and Dennis and I, Sonny would get in these high level engineering intellect talks, and Dennis remembers them well. He was brilliant. I mean, I think he worked on Looking Glass early on, the first 747, the air vehicle that diagnosed nuclear launches from over the horizon stuff. Sonny was involved with that program. So here I am, just started working at Northrop at the super secret B2 program where no one knew about yet. Highly classified program, highly classified. No one knew anything about this program. And I'm sitting there at Sonny's house, told him I'm working at Northrop Pico Rivera. He goes, oh, working on a new bomber program, I take it. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I can go to jail even talking about this program. And this guy knows all about it. He's talking with me about it. Who is this guy, right? Just started getting to know him. So he's talking to me about low observable materials and stealth materials, where highly, highly closed material stuff that no one knew about, but Sonny knew about it. He was brilliant. Carried a conversation with me. Of course, I confirmed and denied nothing or anything with him at the time, but it just shows the intellect. And the second aspect about how bright Sonny was, that was such a great influence on me. I've always surrounded myself with guys like Sonny, Burt, Dennis, and folks like that with really high intellect. They're amazing folks to carry on conversations because they're so bright. They're forward thinkers. We're at my wedding, and Bert is there, Sonny is there, and my father-in-law at the time was a PhD, MD in protein sequencing, right? Just big medical guy, chief scientist, uh, 2 PhDs, couple masters, plus his MD. And Sonny strikes up a conversation, I guess, with my former father-in-law at the time. So I remember toward the end of the wedding, my father-in-law comes up to me and said, hey, I met your friend Sonny. I didn't know he was in the medical field. And I chuckled and I said, he isn't. And he says, well, what do you mean he isn't? He goes, well, he just got done carrying on a conversation with me for the last 15, 20 minutes on protein sequencing, bouncing ideas off of me. And I just chuckled. And I said, that's Sonny. And here it is, just an test of just how bright and how smart Sonny was. That my father-in-law at the time, a dual PhD, MD, research scientist at state-of-the-art protein sequencing, and Sonny's carrying conversation on with him like he's leading the field in that research study. It was just amazing, and it
Yeah.
didn't surprise me. I laughed, and Dennis would test. They're probably some of the brightest folks we've ever met that we've been around. And plus, you can only imagine then their philosophy into JKD and fighting, and Bert, about that whole philosophy about life in general, and life and death scenarios. And those guys were true warriors, absolutely true warriors that set my path to where I'm at today. And I think about them all the time.
Yeah,
I
man.
do.
What is it? Bert and Sonny. I mean, we were so fortunate to have such elite
Oh,
soldiers. Dennis, could you give just for the listeners that are joining without starting at the beginning, could you just give a quick overview of what the background for Bert and Sonny was in their military field career? Sorry, if you what you remember, and then maybe
without Bert's backstory, right?
yeah, and then Vic can fill in where.
Yeah. So Bert, as most of us know, was not his real name. However, as we know him as Bert Poe, um, at the ripe old age of, I think it was 16 or 17, was forced to join the Marine Corps for legal reasons. Ended up going into Corps, and actually was fortunate enough to become one of the Marine Raiders.
Raiders.
So yeah, so his experiences with the close of World War II and then into Korea. In fact, he was one of the raiders that Eleanor Roosevelt would not let back into the country because she was afraid of their inability to assimilate back into society because of everything that they had done. And I don't think a lot of things that they actually did back then has ever really been talked about. But yeah, which is what, you'll notice the guys who have met Bert, like especially early on, he used to carry this box around that was full of scalps, and yeah, but that was all souvenirs from, over there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so he was a Marine Raider. He was also fleet boxing champion at some point. Um, let's see. And then after that, he did do some work in the Philippines, Central and South America for the Department of Agriculture. Um, and that's pretty much should round it up. There
That's
might be some more. Scott would know more, but
And and then
Yeah.
Sonny.
And then there's Sonny.
oh, now Sonny.
Yeah.
Sonny grew
UDT.
up wrestling alligators, believe it or not, down
Oh,
at
jeez.
it's weird because yeah, he told me the story. He actually he and some of his friends actually snuck into, I don't know if it was Knott's Berry Farm or something, because there was a time where they had alligators, and
Oh
he
my
and some of his
goodness.
friends would dare each other, and they would go in there and wrestle alligators. But
Oh
anyway,
my.
um, he ended up joining the Navy, and let's see, at the time he joined the Navy, the the quote unquote SEALs were just given the title of SEALs. Before that, they were just they were Frogmen and UDT.
UDT, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the stories I remember primarily are there's a gentleman named Dick Rice who is Sonny's biggest influence as a Navy SEAL. Um, was the guy who actually went on to can't remember which ship it was in World War II, and he took Admiral Yamamoto's wakizashi, his sword, and at
Wow.
one point he offered it to Sonny, but Sonny didn't take it. But anyway, so Sonny was a Navy SEAL. He did a couple of tours in Vietnam, uh, and then of course he had all his adventures after that. Another thing that Sonny had done was he was also a fleet boxing champion.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah, they're
let's see, what
amazing.
was the other thing that he did? Oh, and
And
most people
marksman.
don't realize his influence. Um, he used to hang around. I don't know. You guys might be too young. Vic might remember Parnelli Jones.
Yeah, of course.
Hmm.
He he and Sonny used to hang around all the time, and that's where Sonny got interested in off-road vehicles, motorcycles, biking, dirt bikes, and all that kind of stuff. So Sonny actually had an influence on the SU-20, I think it was SU-22 carburation system for the Datsun 240Z back in the 70s.
Oh
Yep.
wow.
He helped to develop that. And there were a couple of other things that he did, which is why I remember going to his house at very early time when I first met him, and his car was full of all these bodies of Z cars. I'm like, why do you have all
I
these?
remember.
And he was trying to tell me you should get a Z car, which I ended up doing. But anyway, so I ended up getting a 240, and he was telling me the reasons why. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So he had that influence, and he had a lot of. I'm not sure how he did it, but he had a lot of connection with NASA. In fact, there was a gentleman who was a former not good guy of World War II scientist who was brought over after the war, like NASA brought over many people that we are finding out that were in the space program. And this guy actually lived out in Victorville, and you would never know it. But Sonny took me over his house one day. He's like, I'm going to go visit somebody real quick. I got to check something out. So Sonny was working on, I can't remember what it was. It was a part for NASA. And I mean, it was a little acrylic part, probably about yay big, and it had to be drilled precisely in such a way. He said, "This is the only guy in the world that can do this." So we go out to this guy, and he's got like a nice ranch type house, this really long driveway with a big steel construction building that was um, a workshop, and he had
Mm.
all these tools, and it was just like, I mean, absolutely sanitary. I mean, it was hospital sanitary when you walked in there. And the guy
Clean
standing
room.
there over a machine when I saw him, cowboy boots, jeans, flannel shirt, and Sonny introduced me to him, and that guy had a German accent.
Mm.
And I'm just like, oh shoot, I know exactly who this guy is. But anyway, this guy did something, was showing me stuff, and they started talking on a level of engineering that I didn't know. Even though, for those who don't remember, I do have a degree both in electronics engineering and some mechanical engineering, and I was still kind of like, wow, okay. But yeah, so Sonny done a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
brilliant. They
he,
are both just absolutely
yeah,
brilliant people. Brilliant academia wise, brilliant about life, brilliant. And you never knew both guys were just geniuses in what they do. I mean, Dennis, look at Bird and also the trench warfare stuff, right? I mean,
right.
some of the trench warfare fighting stuff that, wow,
Mm.
the World War II stuff
Mm-hmm.
and then some of the stuff I remember was just stuff you don't really hear about. It was just devastating self-defense stuff and attack things that happened.
Mhm.
The trench warfare stuff, the stories we would hear from Bert, was just unbelievable, and some of the techniques that we that were learned and that were talked about that were never really brought to the to the canvas before. Never brought to the ring
Yeah.
before. Some of the stuff we learned was absolutely amazing.
And this is what was so just real quick. What we've mentioned this before, but what has been so amazing about this group? It wasn't always called the Wednesday night group, but I mean this group of people. I mean, you think about it, to have one person like Sonny or Bert or Dennis, involved in adding to a group of already training, let's say just Jeet Kune Do, is a great thing. But to have a group of so many, and then Bob Bremer joining and Jim Sewell, we were so
Yeah.
fortunate. And like I'll just say real quick, one of the things that I've always envied you is that you had much more time with Sonny and Bert. I was there for about a year before Sonny passed away, and
Yeah.
that's a whole other story with just the toughness of that man. But it was and Bert became a friend of mine, and it was such an amazing thing. So when you say it really influenced your life, I mean, you can understand it's not just
They did.
staying. Yeah.
It just shows the testament about and I'm not going to get wrapped up around the axle about the name JKD, but it brought when I first went to California, I became a man overnight in a hurry. Meeting these folks, and I was a young guy. I was an immature dude. I mean, and just talking to these warriors, and it was almost like peeling away the onion of my knowledge base, and every person that I've come in contact with, from Dennis to Tim to Luis to Ty Pete to Bert, Sonny, Bob Bremer, Tim Tackett, Danny, Larry Hartzell, Chris Kent. It was all the knowledge early on. It was just so amazing, and it rounded me. It really made me who I was, of the folks that I surrounded myself with. And it was very influential. Obviously, I was in the Air Force. I got out of the military. I was still with JKD and the group. And it was an amazing time for me. It really shaped the pathway. And if it wasn't for the Air Force, if it wasn't for JKD, if it wasn't for California coming in, I would never be where I'm at today. I would never be a business owner. I don't think I'd be where I am today without the help and the guidance of early on my young adolescent years of growing up, basically growing up. They were my family. I mean, there's no getting around that. Those guys, and Dennis knows, they were my family. They were all my family back then. It was my family. I had no one in California. I mean, my family's all back in Chicago. And my whatever you want, name you want to associate with, JKD family, whatever, those group of guys were my family back then, and it was an amazing time, and I miss it dearly, and I think of it. I think of it often. And Bert, we all talk serious, but man, that man was hysterical too. I'll never forget playing hockey. Getting back to hockey, I was telling you, I was just playing some hockey. I still play organized hockey all these years. I'm playing hockey one night, and it's like 1988, something like that, and I bust my knuckle up, and Bert was Dennis. Remember this? He's always talking about, "Wop, use your palm. Don't hit somebody with a closed fist. You got to use your palm, Vic. What the hell are you doing?"
Yep.
And I'll never forget, I got in a scrap with my own goalie, of all people. My own goalie. We're in the locker room, and I really didn't get in too many scraps. I kept to myself. Obviously, we had our little fun stuff at the nightclub here and there. But I'll never forget. I really was fascinated way back when by Bruce's 2-inch punch, the 1-inch punch, right? That really emphasized that hip, right? That real hip movement of driving through your target. And I'll never forget, I got in a scuffle in the locker room with my goalie. I didn't want to fight my goalie. He was mad or whatever. He thought one of my guys was bagging on him. He thought it was me. And the guy I remember, I'll never forget, is the first time I ever 2-inch punched somebody. And I did, and it worked. The guy flew about a foot in the air over the bench. And I hit him about a 2 inches away with a closed fist, of course, right on the side of his mouth, which is a big mistake. Cut my knuckle open, but knocked the dude out cold. I mean, he was out. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this shit really works. I really never had to use it, and I never looked for a fight ever. But there's a certain time, of course, in your life where you really got to protect yourself. And I remember the first thing I went back like a a proud peacock to go tell Bert what happened, right? And he looks at my hand because I'd get all stitched up, and he goes, "Wop, how many effing times have I told you you don't hit people with a closed fist? Use your palm." And you always do. Can you feel the difference? And he'd hit
Yep.
my shoulders hard as I could with just with his palm. He'd hit me with his fist first, then he'd hit me with his palm. And he goes, "What hurts more? What just knocked you on your ass more?" I'm like, "I know, Bert, your palm did."
Yep.
And he was all upset about me hitting this guy with my fist instead of my palm. But that's the way Bert was. It was he was it was just real life stuff with that guy. They all were. So
Did
it
you
was
ever
a
get it?
it was a very influential time for me.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that I was that open to give their knowledge to. It was amazing group of guys. It was why the legacy of Bruce and his legacy getting passed to the next generation is in very good hands. At that time, it was in very good hands. They were the best of the best at everything that they did. They really were leaders in their whole field. And Dennis, I can't thank you enough for your friendship back then. It was an amazing time in my life, and it really shaped my path. As Bruce talked about your different paths of life you take, and Dan used to talk about it in the world of JKD, which, like I said, I don't get hung up on that name anymore, JKD, but it's been a fact of life for me. It has been a path of life for me of learning and coming to California and learning and getting influence from all these brilliant minds, whether it was about life, whether it was about fighting, whether it was about knowledge. They had it all. They had it all, and I was lucky to be alive to work out with them and call them my friends. It was amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever get Bert Poe demonstrating on the back of the skull?
Oh yeah.
The palm. You see
Oh
some
man,
stars.
the guy had a grip like a freaking ink. You remember his grip?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, his grip, and Dennis knows this as well. I mean, the dude could break my hand, like shaking my hand. Don't do a handshaking contest with that guy, because he had a grip that was like would crack hands. I mean, it would crack bones.
Yep.
He was such a tough guy. So absolutely tough. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it was an amazing time meeting everybody and getting cultured, right? I mean, even eating Thai food for the first time. Um, and
Yep.
and
Yep.
learning from Thai Pete. I'm learning about a Thai kick. My very first threw a Thai kick, about how to throw a Thai kick for the first time, and hanging out with him. And then just life in general. Dennis mentioned at the beginning of this of just hanging out as like we were like family, we were like brothers. I mean, I'll never forget. I celebrated my 21st birthday with Dennis and Tim, and from I think from what I remember, one of the incidents on my 21st birthday is it was either Dennis, I think it was Dennis and Tim and Louise who were at a bar, and I tried to
And
pick
don't
up this,
forget Joe, the funky
and Joe,
vibe.
Joe, of course,
Monkey.
Joe. Here I am at this bar trying to pick up this girl, wasted. I didn't drink a lot. It's my 21st birthday. And I remember Dennis, as cool as Dennis was, the girl tells me, and I'm obliterated. And I remember the girl saying, "Well, I am with a boyfriend." I'm like, "I don't care. I don't care at all." And so I remember this guy showing up, and and I didn't drink a lot at all, and getting kind of belligerent. All I remember is Dennis kind of giving me a bear hug and goes, "Don't mind him. We're leaving." And Dennis actually picking me up off the floor about 2 feet. "Vito, we're leaving." Right in the middle. I'm like, "No, no, we're not leaving. I'm talking to this girl." So it was just that type. Everybody had each other's back, and I think Dennis will remember some little bit more details about that night. But here's a guy who doesn't drink much, but it was a night to remember as well, from what I do remember.
Yeah, that was the highlight.
But it's just the testament of who we were, and how close we really were back then. We hung out, like I said, Monday through Thursday, and then we were working at the club Friday and Saturday night. So when we started working at Pancho Villa, so we worked out Monday through Thursday, then worked at the nightclub Friday and Saturdays. So we were with each other, almost every day and every night of the week. And I remember at that time, Tim Sr. was happy because Tim Jr. at the time was a real quiet guy. Dennis will remember. He's kind of a recluse guy. he didn't go out a lot. And like Ty Pete, he was a Buddhist monk. He didn't do much at all except praise everybody
Except for get
until
corrupted by us.
until we got him corrupted. His poor family was absolutely furious, I
Yeah.
think, and sent him back to Thailand to get kind of programmed again to be a Buddhist monk and to come back to America all humble again.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it was great. We fed off each other. Tim was, a quiet guy, but he also got to come out with us and hang out with us, and it was great. And I've had a lot of memorable times with Tim Jr. I miss him dearly as well. And it was just it was a time of my life, and I'm so happy I came to California. But as I said at the beginning of the conversation, JKD, the Wednesday night group, whatever you want to call it, of the JKD, Tim Tackett, the Danny, the Bruce Lee legacy is what brought me to California. It was the only reason I came to California. It was the only reason I met Dennis, was what we call right now, what you guys do in JKD and martial arts. There was no other reason I came, and that was it. And I think I made a good choice. I do. I do.
Did you now, just mentioning Muay Thai, Thai boxing? Did you ever get to work with Chai?
Not work with them, but went to Thai fights with Dennis, with watching him drink and smoke after a fight.
Okay.
Oh no, that was Saksan. That was Saksan.
Oh, Saksan. Okay.
Saksan. Okay,
All right.
yeah.
No, I never worked. Yeah, it was Saksan. That I worked with. Yeah, I didn't work.
Okay.
You're right. Okay.
Saksan was a big
Dennis.
influence. Yeah, Saksan was a big influence. Yeah.
Exactly.
I never worked with Chai either. I was just wondering because I'm trying to.
I did.
I know you did. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the time frame and all that. Yeah. So and at the Inosanto Academy and everything. So yeah. So you were saying you had worked a lot with Tim Tackett Jr.
Yep.
And at some point, you were, I assume because of the military, you got into aerospace. You said, I think Lockheed
I
Martin.
did. Yeah. So when I met Sonny, like I said, I was working at Northrop at the B2 division when no one knew about it back in 1987. Gosh, showing my age. My son still thinks that's an old airplane. He goes, yeah, the B-21 is where it's at, Dad. That B-2 is old. I'm like, I got 6 patents on that damn airplane. It just bombed the shit out of Iran, thank you very much, and took out their nuclear facilities. I think the airplane's still running good. Anyways, but yeah, I was in aerospace basically my whole career. After the Air Force, I got out, working on F-117 program early on. I did the whole circle, the B-2 division. Did the police, and Sonny wasn't, I guess Bert wasn't happy when I started doing more of the getting involved with law enforcement, and worked San Bernardino PD for a while. And then reality set in. Lost my roommate. Dennis knew Bob Schultes really well.
Yep.
Lost Bob February 10th, 1992. So lost my roommate, best friend. Dennis knew Bob real well, great guy. Kind of reality set in. I kind of shied away from the law enforcement. And I remember Bert back in the day saying, Bert was real honest with me about that, getting into law enforcement. He was like, Wop, you don't have the physical presence to do it. Not that I couldn't take care of myself, but I didn't have the physical deterrence. Bert was really good about that with police officer stuff. He believed in that physical deterrence. Big guy, right? Being having, I'm only 5'9", Bert 6 feet, Sonny 6'2", whatever. They're all tall guys. They had that physical deterrence, which I didn't. It never occurred to me, but Bert was very concerned with me about getting law enforcement. Not that I couldn't take care of myself, but people taking the shots and people doing things because I didn't have that physical deterrence to maybe stand down somebody that might, want to go astray, which at the time I didn't give a crap. I mean, bring it on. But he was concerned about that. And after my roommate got killed, and at that time, Bob got killed, I shied away from that and went in the civilian sector. I was working at a grocery chain, doing white collar crime, doing that stuff in security and undercover stuff. Yeah. Did undercover stuff for them. And then got back into aerospace in 1998, 99, went to work at Lockheed Skunk Works, where I stayed all the way to 2005 until I basically transitioned over. I started my company, which I run now, and Tactical Night Vision. And then from then, I left Lockheed in 2005. And so the last 20 years, celebrate my 20-year anniversary, I've been working with my own company. I've started a company 20 years ago. And I've
Nice.
been doing that since 2005. But yeah, backing up, I worked for all the major aerospace companies going back. But once again, Bert
Yeah.
and the legacy had such a pronounced pathway of wisdom of where I needed to be. And I knew law enforcement wasn't it. And just long, serious talks, with Bert. I mean, life and death talks, right? My roommate got killed. So a lot of life and death talks with Bert about, true life stuff about being a cop, stuff that I think a lot of young kids, a lot of young people should really understand
Mm-hmm.
what that job entails nowadays. And God knows being a cop nowadays is nothing like I was, and Bob was back then with the advent of cell phones and political mess and
Mhm.
defunding police bullshit.
Yeah.
I can't. I give credit to all the kids that want to become police officers now, because back then Bert knew how difficult it could be on the streets. Nothing's changed. Bad guys are bad guys. Bert knew it.
Yeah.
Sonny knew it. Everybody knew it. So, but like I said, it was Bert had all that wisdom to tell me what to shy away from and what, why not to go down that career path that
Yeah.
it could get quite dangerous, not because of my physical couldn't take care of myself, but just the aspect of just a philosophy about what bad guys look at. And they look at a littler guy right away. They think that they're going to start that activity, start that crime against someone. And I wasn't much of a turns because of physical size. That was a big deal for Bert, a real big deal, and it made sense. It made perfect, absolute
Yeah.
sense. So, yeah, so that's basically how they, basically steered. Once again, Bert and the JKD folks steered me where I needed to be, and it wasn't being the police officer stuff. And once again, if it wasn't for, here we are again talking about Bert and everybody steering me in the direction that I needed to go in, then I
Yeah.
might not even be here today.
Great to have
They were,
mentors.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
amazing mentors, and everybody cared about everybody, right? They really did. So,
Mm-hmm.
I miss, like I said, Jeremy, I miss everyone. I do. I keep track. I read a lot still, and I know Danny's got. How old is Danny? No, I don't know. How old is he getting up there? How old is
Oh my
he?
gosh.
He's in
Yeah.
his 80s, right?
86,
Yeah,
85,
he's
86.
up there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So
Dennis and I missed anything about, what we did, how we did it, and, the community center of, I still remember Tim had he had a hook that freaking was just a clobber, man. I'll never forget his right hook was unbelievable that he
Mm.
threw. He was such a great boxer.
Tim
And
Jr.
Yeah.
yeah, Tim Jr. He had this hook, Dennis. So we remember it was so devastating, man. Anybody who had got hit with that thing would have been just devastating. He had one of the heaviest body shot hooks I've ever experienced. He was really tough at that. And obviously Pete brought in the Thai aspect, the Muay Thai stuff that we weren't doing. And then I don't even remember how it happened, but I remember either Dennis or Tim Jr. inviting me, or inviting Louise and Ty Pete to come to the Wednesday night session. I don't know how it happened, but I knew it was graduation time when we got asked for the first time
Yeah.
to come to that crew. And Bob Bremer wasn't there yet, obviously. Jeremy, you weren't there just yet. Louis wasn't there yet. But it was just the rec center. But Tim was smart, right? Tim Senior was smart, that his son was great with the young guys. He did the foundation stuff, right? He taught the foundational JKD stuff, and we got it. I mean, between
Yeah.
Dennis and I give Dennis, you're there, brother. I'll give you credit
Yeah.
too, because I don't think at the time you could have been. I think you already went to the Wednesday night group. You're already there.
Yeah.
But it was awesome that we had such a senior member that would come down at the rec center and teach us. It was Tim Jr., it was Dennis, and here we are, newbies off the street, right? I was a nobody. I mean, I thought I knew a few things about martial arts because I never wanted to go to no dojo my whole life. But just a credit of Dennis coming down and Tim Jr. taking us under their wing, and knowing that these guys really have maybe what it takes to get a foundation, to get to the game, the big game, right? And that was the Wednesday night ensemble was to go work out there. And that was a real accomplishment to me when I got asked to come to the Wednesday night. I don't even remember how it happened, but I remember that it just sort of happened that we got invited. We're our first time ever, and we went to the Wednesday night group, and it was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I met Danny and everybody long before that, but I was still working on my foundation. I wasn't part of the hardcore guys. I wasn't part of the Wednesday night group yet. I was just learning. I was just learning and absorbing everything that I could from everybody that was giving me all the valuable information. So I'm sure Dennis can allude to that more, but it was pretty exciting times back then and at that rec center, and it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy that we even got allowed in on Wednesday night. I didn't think we're ever going to get there because we worked out so hard for so long.
You talk about Tim Jr.'s hook. You know who also hits hard? I'm trying to get him back into training with me. I just talked to him recently. Is his son, Jacob Tackett. He has a
Really?
powerful
Oh yeah,
kick
Jacob. Yeah.
and a powerful punch. Yeah. Um, Currently, that old house, I'm just gonna let you guys know, is up for sale.
Oh, he's
Oh, it is
selling
in
it.
Redlands.
Yeah. So
Oh
I am going
wow.
to be hosting a Wednesday night group class over there the 13th. It's whatever's the Wednesday night, not this coming, but the following next week, Wednesday.
Oh
Jacob's
wow.
opening the garage up for a few last hurrahs because they're selling the house, and so right now, Tim lives in the East Coast, and Jacob, his grandson, has been living in the house, but I guess it's being sold, and so he's going
Huh.
to move somewhere else. And so that's a legendary place, and it's going to be
Wow.
under the ownership. Currently, all the pictures are still on the wall. The equipment's there.
Wow.
So if anybody wants to drop by for those last, just take some photos and hang out for a bit.
Man.
Yeah, that might be a nice time for me to kind of take a trip out to
Huh.
Cali. So I'm living in Nevada now, as everybody knows. So I'm out here
Yeah,
in Nevada, and
I'll
yeah,
be
there was
there.
some fond memories over there as well. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Some of the memories. So I just,
Mm.
I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, Dennis.
Mm.
From the bottom of my heart, it really made me who I am today. There's no doubt about it. Um, it was just it was me growing up. It was me growing up because I was a kid, right? I was 20 years old when I was 19 years old when I met Dennis. I was 19. I'm 63 years old now. I was nine. I was 19 when I came to the military in May 1st of 1981, and 3 or 4 months after that, I went to the rec center. That's how long it's been. It's been that long, but I guess it's the generation of early JKD guys. And I haven't spoken to Ty Pete in a long time. I know he went to work in law enforcement himself
Mm-hmm.
for a while and had, I think, a long-standing career in law enforcement. I know his family owned the Thai house there. We'd have parties. Dennis remembers we had some great parties at our apartment he lived in. Pete would always show up bringing the Thai food and egg rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everywhere we went, Pete was there to bring the food over for the Thai food. And Dennis, anything I'm missing of back in the day of some of the
Gosh,
highlights? But I think I covered a lot of them. Again, my memory is
there's
I
so much.
don't know. You're having to jog my memory now.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's
Vic,
been a long time.
I'd actually like to ask you just a little bit. Give us a little bit of an overview of what you do, what your company's doing now. What is it that you got into?
Yeah. So surely on accident because of my little law enforcement stuff and more of doing the surveillance stuff at the grocery stores and using night vision to watch people steal ice cream out of a reefer truck or whatever on the roof of a warehouse. I mean, all sorts of weird stuff. But it gave me early on work of working with night vision. And then obviously with the police stuff later on, um, a lot of law enforcement officers were using early models of night vision. And it was more of a hobby of mine and intrigued me. And a person came in probably 2003. I was in the middle of working at Lockheed and asked me if I would like to start selling some night vision on the side for him. And I was getting a piece for San Bernardino PD, one a Raptor night vision scope, and they had trouble getting it. And I had to call him and this guy in Optics HQ up north, still there, by the way, his old dear friend of mine, Mike. and asked me if I wanted to start selling night vision on the side in 2003. And then I started the business basically out of my house in California, in Loma Linda, where I lived at the time. And it was purely an accident. Here I am driving every day to Lockheed Skunk Works on a 138, an hour and a half drive, 74 miles each way. Love my job there. And I started selling night vision, and the business really started to pick up. And by time 2005 came, my wife, who was a school teacher at the time, was bringing the packages to the UPS store, and I was bagging them up at night. And on my lunch hour, I'd call my customers back, and it got, the all-American dream. I started in my garage and in my dining room, and it got so busy. I had to make a decision. Do I stay at Lockheed, or do I go out on my own and grow my business? Either I can keep the business the same as it was, TNVC and Tactical Night Vision, or stay at Lockheed, or do I risk it and make the move and get into the night vision? I knew I was good at it. Back at the time, I was really early on. Nobody was doing night vision online or any fanfare. There's only a few larger companies doing night vision at the time. So I think I chose well. So I'm celebrating. Here I am 20 years later. Here we are, 20 years later from 2005. We're celebrating this September. Next month, officially be 20 years I've been doing the work. My employees are great. I'm really close to the special operations community. In fact, you can see over my, which the camera left shoulder, whatever one, was a guy over there, and Kit, his name is Navy SEAL guy, become involved out here in Boulder City, Nevada with the Shane Patton Foundation. Shane was killed 20 years ago in Operation Red Wing in 2005. And I am part of the Shane Patton Foundation. Actually, we just got a statue just erected for him here at the park, and we finally got it done. And we've been waiting for him to the Mark Wahlberg movie was there that he did that talked about the movie as well. Mark Wahlberg was in it. Shane was actually in the movie. A character played Shane. Marcus Luttrell obviously was in that movie where Shane went in to try to help Marcus and the rest of the SEAL team. They took an RPG rocket in the back of Chinook, and if you remember from the story, they all were killed tragically. So got to know his dad really, really well. We're very, very close. Jimmy Pat and I are very, very close. His brother Chase. So that's what I do out here. I run the ship, I steer the ship of Tactical Night Vision out here in Boulder City, Nevada. Part of the Shane Patton Foundation. My inner circle of guys that work for TNVC, I've always surrounded myself, obviously, from the lessons learned from Bert and Sonny and all the rest, of surrounding myself with the best people I can. That is key. It's education. Once again, I go back to my root training and root education from those guys of learn first, be the best that you can, and be an SME, become a subject matter expert in what you do, and learn it, live it, and be the best that you can. That's what those guys did. And I think that's why I believe we've become so successful at TNVC. I have, 33 employees now or something like that. And my inner circle is all special operations guys, all former special operations. I have a captain got out. I have a Navy SEAL guy that's from Team 7 that is involved with my training as well. I just got another gentleman, 28 years command, 28 years, command sergeant major, who also has just got out of the Army. He started work for me as well, the Ranger guy. I have my director of training, a full bird colonel in the Army, a commander. I have two other gentlemen real close with. They're also special operations guys. So my whole inner circle that I surround myself are really tip of the spear guys. But once again, it was knowing those guys like Bert and Sonny and Dennis, whatever. You deal with the best you can. You bring in the best folks you can. You bring in the very tip of the spear guys. I mean, some of the guys I know that I've worked with on my crew, they've killed more bad guys than the frickin' plague, and I say that proudly. I mean, they're stone killers. I'm so glad we're on this side of the fence. I'm so glad we're not America's enemies, because our elite tip of the spear guys are the best of the best. So, I run my company here. It's going on 20 years. I'm involved with the Shane Patton Foundation. I'm very, very, very close with the charity work for Naval Special Operations. We give a lot to the families and a lot to the the folks that have fallen heroes in their life. So it's kind of I guess it's my calling. It's whatever you want to call it, but they're dear to my heart. My special operations guys, my military and law enforcement guys we deal with are really close to me, and they're dear to my heart, obviously. So I've
Yeah.
come from it. I've come from as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing ever since I left. Kind of the aerospace industry. I've been
Right.
involved with little old TNVC and rock and roll and the night vision stuff. So, but
Sweet.
yeah, it's been a great path. It's been a great path. But once again, it all comes down to how it all happened. And without the Air Force, without JKD, without the Dennis and Berts, and Sonny's and Tim Tackett's and the Joes and Ty Pete and Tim Jr. And the Scotts. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but they made me who I am today, and
Yeah.
I'm forever thankful for that. I'm forever thankful, and I still I still watch Bruce's movies every chance I get. There'll be something on. Just can't get enough of them. I don't know. We used to
Oh my
always
God.
laugh, and yeah, to this day, I learned so much by reading his stuff. Still, you pick little things up about how fast he was in some of the old videos. One thing I never got my hands on, I know you core guys did, was the original notes that Linda Lee passed out. I mean, I always wanted to get a copy of those. I had never gotten one. But I know that Linda at one time, didn't she pass the notes out to the nucleus group? You guys were kind of doing that thing at one time. And I think, Dennis, you have the nucleus. I guess the nucleus have the actual Bruce Lee's original notes, I believe, don't you?
A lot of the other guys do. Yeah,
It was
yeah, a
the
lot of
old
guys,
guys.
and I know that John Little took a bunch of Bruce's notes that he was given by Linda as well to create
Yeah.
a series of books.
Yeah.
And
So they are published for the most
yeah,
part.
the books are published. But
Um,
yeah, wow.
well,
Yeah, I
man.
remember, it was great meeting Linda. Dennis remembers we had the Bruce um reunion we had. It was his birthday, but we all went to Chinatown. I
Oh
think
yeah,
Tim
yeah,
was,
yeah,
yeah, Tim was there. I was there. Dennis, Linda Lee
yeah.
was
Yeah.
there, and forgot who else was there, but I do know Dennis, Tim, myself, Linda Lee, and I think Bob Bremer was there yeah,
Oh
Bob
yeah,
was there
Bob
as
was at the
well.
table with us,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
let's
yep.
see, one of the Haber brothers was there, and let's see, man, I remember that now. I totally
Mm,
forgot about that dinner.
mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I met Linda for the first time there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this only second time I ran into there was Bob Bremer's funeral dinner. We had the
Mhm.
remembrance dinner when Bob passed away. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was, like I said, I can't. Some great memories, and they really have shaped my future. And um, yeah, but folks don't know the half of it about how it really happened. But I'm glad I get to talk about it because my old days of working out with the rec center and the old students were absolutely amazing. They made me who I am today. That's all I can
That's-
say. Everybody asks me in this day, what brought you out to California? I said
Bruce
martial
Lee.
arts. Yeah, martial art. They do, and they look at me kind of funny, like, wait, you're kidding me? And I'm like, no. He goes,
No.
and most guys say, I never knew you're a martial art guy. And I go, I'm not a martial art guy. I'm nobody. I learned how to fight, and I didn't
Yeah.
put titles. Something I did learn early on is remember Bruce's stuff he used to talk about. We all got hung up. I think we all did. Well, I was guilty of it. I get hung up on a name of JKD, and it's, to me, it's just it was life. I learned how to fight and take care of myself, and I learned how to mature, and that was my path. Bruce talked about different paths, and Danny talked about in his books different paths of life we take. My path's not for you, or your path might not be for me. Um, but I never got hung up on that path. I kind of really learned what path I needed to be on, and learned to surround myself without trying, and surrounding myself with some of the best people I've ever had in my entire life. And that carryovers not into the early days of my martial art training, but in life today. I surround myself with just some of the best people, the best war fighters, the best martial artists I've had, that I consider to this day. I watch some of this stuff in MMA stuff. I'm really kind of, I'm always been the boxer. Dennis knows how many parties I had at my house. Remember the boxing parties we've had at the house, Dennis? Oh
Yes.
my gosh, we must have watched every major fight at our house. We always had everybody over at my house or somewhere
Mhm.
watching boxing no matter what. So as years went on, I still love boxing, but I've seen more and more. I really like in the MMA. I think Bruce would have liked the MMA. I like some of the stuff I see with the MMA, some of the things that they do. Um, I like the training aspect of what they do. I mean, the cage fighting and all that stuff, but I think it's a good close knit fighting that, you know, I think Bruce would have liked back then because, you know, boxing has its glory with the hands, but I do like the feet, getting into the combat roles as well. And it's
Yeah.
funny that transition of MMA. Remember the Gracie brothers, the Gracies were all in back in the day, right? Everything, I hated MMA because everything went to the ground. Everything went to
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah.
Everything stayed on the ground. And it was boring. I mean, if you're into that, and ground fighting was great. I mean, we all learned it. And it was great training to learn ground fighting, but they all stayed on the ground. And so now I see the transition. It's great watching MMA because they're great with their hands. They finally got better with their hands. And Dennis, you probably even realized that too. And years ago, they weren't very good with their hands. We used to laugh. Like, these guys suck. I mean, they were. They weren't very good. They weren't very good boxers back then. They
Nope.
really couldn't protect themselves. But when they got to the ground, the Gracies, you know, they were amazing. I mean, look at, was it Lloyd? Was it one of the best ground guys that used to work with us in the Wednesday night group as well
Oh
that
yeah,
came in
Lloyd.
later on?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Lloyd was a great ground
Lloyd
guy too.
Kennedy.
Yep, yep. He was another guy that really had a lot of education. Boy, that man, he must have had every darn old school fight from Joe Louis to Rocky Marciano, all in those VHS tapes. I remember used to hand out, and we all used to watch them. So
Yeah.
I think the MMA's come a long way too. The guys can actually fight standing up nowadays with their hands, which is great. And that's, you know, it hasn't been, it's kind of a recent transition too, because they weren't very good with their hands that many years ago. And now they're, you know, they're pretty masterful at what they do, and their training and nutrition, and obviously their strength conditioning is just, you know, it's off the charts what they do.
Oh
So
yeah.
I really like watching that aspect of the martial arts sports nowadays. But still watch boxing, but I really enjoy the MMA stuff and what they bring to the warrior
So,
sports.
so speaking of boxing, are you still involved with the guy in San Bernardino?
I am, yeah,
Yeah.
I am. So the Highland Boxing Club, yep.
Yeah.
Tony, yep, you bet.
Yeah.
Tony's is amazing. His son, turned pro, obviously.
Mm.
So he is, I think, what is his record now? He's like 13-4, something like that. So Anthony Chavez,
Yeah.
get a chance. Great hands. I mean, Dennis, I've sent you some tapes with him as well. You know, trying to, you know, get him groomed up, and you know, he's a great young fighter. So,
Hmm.
you know, Tony and the Highland Boxing Club is great because, you know, he's out of a really rough neighborhood in the you know, the old Highland area by Norton Air Force Base, which the neighborhood has never been very good. So once again, a great guy, great boxing coach, does great things to the city of Highland, and bringing the young kids out there to get them off the streets and get them in the gym, and right, and you got to answer to somebody. Almost like, you know, we did when we were young. I mean, went to a boxing gym. He's still doing the same thing and bringing up good boxers. And, you know, Anthony's still boxing, still at a professional level. And yeah, thanks
Okay.
for asking. He's still
Yeah.
doing some good fighting and everything
Good.
else. So yeah, but like I said, it's been a long journey. It's
Yeah.
been a long journey, and I haven't forgotten about anybody. I think about everybody all so often. So I can't thank you enough for, you know, getting me on the show and talking about the past, about what brought me to California. But
Yeah.
it's me. It's who I am, and it's been my legacy of surrounding myself with folks that I mentioned, and learning from. You know, it's a constant day. Every day goes by, I'm like, I absorb everything. You know, I just absorb everything I can education wise. I read everything. I listen to everything. I guess what I also learned is, you know, from Sonny and Bert and Dennis and those guys, is that, you know, you have to listen sometimes too. You got to listen
Mm.
and learn. And it's one thing I have no problems with now. I have no ego. I have no ego. I have no ego anymore. That left the door years ago when I got my ass kicked early on from you guys. You learn in a hurry when you get your ass kicked. You get your ass kicked in a hurry, when you think you might know something about fighting, whatever it is. But man, when the gloves come on and the stick fighting starts up, all that bullshit goes out the door, and Dennis knows it. I mean, the first full contact stick fighting I've ever been in, holy shit. I mean, that was some brutal stuff. I mean, it was, but that's what I loved about what we did. It was no bullshit. We
Right.
fought hard. We learned to fight, and we learned to survive out there.
Yep. Oh man.
It, good times.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm sure there's many, many more stories. We can have a whole other episode, and
Yeah,
definitely happy to have you back on, because it's good times with old friends and reminiscing, and we got to get together and do some stuff.
I would love to. I would love
Yes.
to. I'd like to be there at the see the old house before it sells too, and look at all the
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
Bring back a lot of memories.
Sounds like we may have an event in Vegas this year in early November, so we'll let you know if that's
I'm here.
fleshes out. I'm still talking out with Rinse for Monday, but it looks like if it is going forward, the last day of October, the first 2 days of November. So,
And
um,
I know the JKD world too. I look at it worldwide now. I mean, I hate using the word JKD, but I do know the phenomenon. You know, I've kept track of the seminars that between you've been on, Tintac, and when you're still active, and Dennis, the legacy stuff
Mhm.
that you guys traveled around with. It was just amazing how much it's grown and the word got out there.
yes.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, man. Well, thank you so much for being on our show, man. It's been a blast to talk and to hear all of the things that well, one last for the for the other people that are sneaking in listening, one last question. Did you see anything sneaky at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works? UAPs.
Yeah, so I tell people at Lockheed one thing. The SR-71 Blackbird, the U-2, let me back up. The U-2 flew classified for the first time in the 50s, right?
Mm,
SR-71 followed on first classified flight in the 60s. F-117, 1980, 78, Half Blue got kicked off. 81, started flying around, been involved in a lot of the programs. Um, and if folks think we haven't evolved technology a little bit in all that time, remember, Lockheed Skunk Works builds things 50 years in the future. I
that's
don't
right.
believe in UAPs. I don't believe in UFOs from extraterrestrial, but I do believe in great American technology. That's all I can tell you.
Wow.
That's all I can tell you. Don't
Wow.
believe in the ET stuff, but know Lockheed builds 50 years in the future, and know that if certain weapon platforms ever did come out into the open, World War III would be alive and well, and we probably wouldn't allow, none of us would probably be around to talk about it. But we're in good hands. We rule the
Yeah.
skies.
Yeah, we
We
do.
rule the world skies. We always have. Air breathing, orbital breathing. We rule the skies and have for a long time. So I'm proud to say that.
All right. All right. Well, that's a fantastic place, I think, to end it.
Hmm.
Great, guys.
Yes. Have a
Thank
fantastic.
you
Well,
very much. Thank you
thank
very
you,
much
Vic.
for bringing me on. And it was great talking about everything again, Dennis. And we go back a long way, brother. And I miss you, man. I think about you guys often. And I miss everyone dearly. I miss everyone. I can't say enough. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for paving my way.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks for
Vic.
being there, man.
You too.
Thanks, man.
All right. God bless you,
All right,
man.
guys.
Have a great day.
Thank you, man. All right, brother. Thank you. Be happy to be back any other time. Thank you.